Hey y'all, welcome to the Insurance Lounge with Tanya.
And Christy.
And we're your local insurance agent out of the Chattanooga, Tennessee area. We are here to make insurance a little less boring and way more useful for you. As our goal on every week is to share with you what we know through years of insurance experience so that you can feel more confident about your insurance so that you can better protect your family, your home, your business, and of course, your future. So, with that said, Christy, would you mind kicking us off with the hot topic for the week?
Sure, Tanya. What I'm hearing these days from all of my networking and referral partners is questions about roofs. Whether you're a home buyer, a seller, a
Mhm.
real estate agent, a mortgage lender, all the way down the line, the roof is critical to the deal. It's a critical rating factor, for the buyer. And the last thing that any of those parties want is a surprise, as they're getting near to closing and um, trying to close a deal, or even if you're a current homeowner and having issues or questions with your roof, it's just not a comfortable place to be. So everybody seems to be talking about roofs these days.
Exactly, Christian. I'm so glad you bring it up because, between the unexpected repair costs and then all kinds of issues that can come up, wherever you are at in the home buying process or in the home ownership process, right? So, Christy, let's take a deeper dive today
Yeah,
if we
let's
can,
do
and
it.
let's show our audience what are some best practice and some workaround if you do run into these issues, right?
I think if you're just take, each constituency kind of separately, right? So if you're the
Mhm.
seller,
Mhm.
I think the best thing to do, you talked about best practices. The best thing to do if you're a seller is just face the issue head on. If you've got a roof that you know might be a problem, it's aging or it's got some damage that you didn't attend to or what have you, you know, just just take it. Know that you're going to have some kind of uh, bargaining going on there, because any informed agent or buyer is going to look at that roof and say, hey, we've got a potential issue here. So I think if you just face it head on, like I said, either lowering your asking price, maybe making some concessions at closing to accommodate for the fact that we know, the new buyer might have to do something with that roof in the near future. Lots of different ways probably to attack it, but just know, disclose it and know that you're going to have to do something there. Talk to your agent. They've probably got some great ideas about things that they've seen other sellers do, all along through their experience.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely, right. And what I hear you say was, honesty, the best policy, it sounds like,
yeah.
right? Be upfront, let them know that there might be potential issues that they might have to discuss further, right? And same thing goes with homeowners too, right, Christy? So if we are looking to buy a home, um, probably the roof age is one of the issue or one of the thing that we should inquire first, and typically, the seller should have this information, or the realtor that's working with you, that's helping you with
Right.
this purchase, is going to have some sort of documentation from the seller that they have to, disclose. So you might be able to obtain that information from them.
Or
Um,
even Tanya, as we know from our position as agents, right? When you're getting a quote, it's going to tell you if there's been a claim on that property. So there are lots of ways to find out about it if that seller is not being super upfront with you. But hopefully that's not the case.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, find that out too. If you are a home buyer, do your due diligence on the roof, right? That
For sure.
information, you're going to need that for agents like Christy and I to be able to help you with a quote anyway. So, when was that roof replaced? The other thing that you want to keep in mind as a buyer too is, we have to do our due diligence and make sure that we do a proper inspection, right? Christy, is not a time to maybe cut the cost on paying for the inspections and things like that, because Roof issue is no joke, guys. It's definitely not something you want to be cheap about and then having to find out later after, you made an offer, you signed that dotted line, right? You don't want to find
Right.
yourself in that situation. Anything else you can think of for the buyer, Christy?
No, not really, Tanya. I would just elaborate a little bit, really, like you said about an inspection, and there are lots of reputable home inspectors around who can, tell you from top to bottom about that place that you're looking at. What are the potential issues that you might be looking at? So just take advantage of that. If the seller is not offering a home inspection, it might be worth it to just fork over some money and get a good one done before you buy a problem that you didn't intend to buy.
Absolutely. And now, and of course this is going to happen, right, Christy? We see this a lot where you absolutely fall in love with a home and it's
Mhm.
calling your name and you can see your family in it.
It's so
But it does
emotional,
have,
right? It's
yes,
so
yes.
yeah.
Exactly, and you just can't walk away, right? And it does have an old roof. It does have an issue. You do know that from the buyer, from the seller and the agent that's helping you. So, Christy, if that's the case, I'm the home buyer. I know the roof is old. What are some things that I should keep in mind if I'm
Yeah.
willing to pull the trigger anyways because
I
I
just
love the
want it anyway,
property?
right? Yeah, I mean, as a buyer, I think, and you and I are both homeowners, so we've
Mhm.
maybe been in this situation before, but you just have, go into it with eyes wide open, know what you're getting, know that you might be looking at replacing a roof, within the first, 5, 10 years, whatever, 2 years, whatever it is, depending on the age and condition of the existing roof. But and this is something we can talk about more when we're talking about the current homeowner
Mhm.
constituency, but not every roof problem is a claim. Just because the roof is aging does not mean that your insurance is ever going to pay to replace that roof. So just eyes wide open, no, figure that into your cost, budget for it, whatever it is that you need to do. Because it's literally, it's covering you, it's covering your family. You want it to be safe and viable. Um,
Yep.
you don't want, to put your belongings at risk with water damage and things like that. So you just
Yes,
gotta
absolutely. Yeah,
bite the bullet.
absolutely. Yeah, right. Plan for it or use it as a bargaining chip, right, Christy,
Right. Yep.
to get that price down a little bit because
For sure.
you're going to have to deal with the issues when you take it over. And then to circle back on Christy earlier point too, if you are buying this home, um, part of the cost of homeownership is the insurance part of it. So, do reach out to your agent if you do have one, or if you don't have one, call an agent and get a quote on the home, guys. Roof is just one of the rating factors on the home. And like we mentioned earlier, there could be a different loss that comes up in the loss history of the property. You might want to know that about the home instead of going in blind. The other thing too is, make sure that the insurance uh, is available for you to obtain coverage, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
depending on the area the home is in, maybe it's not just a roof issue. We can cover this in another episode, Christy, but that could be the factor why you might have a hard time purchasing the property, right? If the insurance is way too expensive because of the roof age,
Hmm.
or it's just not insurable because of the roof
Right. Could
conditions and
be.
because of the age of the home and things like that. So find that out first beforehand, just like getting pre-approved on your loan before you start looking at houses. Get a quote on the home before you make that offer, for example.
Right, right. Well, and like the if the cost of the insurance, and it can be directly impacted by the age and condition of the roof, right? So if that's the case, if it's making the insurance go way up, that actually, could impact your loan to income value on your loan, and put you out of range of closing on the home. So eyes wide open all the time, I think, is the theme that we keep hitting on here.
Okay, Christy. And then another thing that comes to my mind too, as a home buyer, is if you absolutely love that home and you are getting an old roof, we do recommend that you get a quote for a new roof
For
replacement.
replacing it, right, yeah.
Right. So, what are some signs I should look out for, Christy, if I'm shopping for home, right? I'm not a roof expert, so what are
Well, right,
something I should look
right.
for that I know like that's it's gonna prompt a roof replacement,
Yeah.
so I know.
Well, I think just as everyday Joe, right? And most people don't know what to look for in a roof. But if you've gotten that inspection and they've come back with a report that says, you have some issues to be concerned about, granular loss can be one of those things where the kind of sandy part of the shingles is eroding and it's no
Mhm.
longer really protecting the layers underneath there. You can look for lifting or curling of the shingles. That's something you would be able to see probably with the naked eye, assuming that it's not too high just to be able to
Right.
see up
Or
there.
missing shingles, right,
Missing
Christy? Could
shingles,
be, yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm.
But anytime I think if that report came back or the homeowner, the seller told you the roof is, 20, 30 years old, or I have no idea how old the roof is. I've lived here for 10 years and I've never touched it. Those might be red flags that would make you want to just get an estimate. I know a lot of roofers will even do just what they call a roof bill of health,
Mhm.
there's no charge for that typically.
Mhm.
So they're just going to take a look and tell you, any issues that you might need to be concerned about or might need to take care
Mhm.
of, or best case scenario, hey, this thing looks like it's got another 10, 15 years on it. Then you're going to be in great shape. But if not, like we
Exactly.
said, keep your eyes open, know what you're getting. So that's an easy way to take care of it. Just get an estimate from a local reputable roofer. You want somebody that's going to be around. If that report comes back and says, yeah, this roof looks like it's got another 10 or 15 years on it, well, that was a nice honest response that you got from a roofer, right? So you might want to call that person back. So you want to be sure you're working with somebody who's going to be around for you to call them back when the time does come that either you have some damage or it's just aged out and now you're ready to take some action on it.
Exactly, Christy. And that's a great point when working with trusted and reputable local roofing company you can count
Yep,
on,
yep,
right? And to this point too, guys, if you are willing to take on that cost and you might want to replace that roof a lot sooner, right? Let's say it was a bargaining chip for you and you're able to get into the house and you want to replace that roof. Make sure you tell your insurance agent that. I know a lot of times, guys, when we buy new things and we upgrade our home, the last thing you want to think about is your insurance agent, right? But guys, when it comes down to roof, that is a major rating factor when it comes to insurance. So, one, either you get a better rate for having a brand new roof on your
right,
home,
right,
or you get a better deductible, right? So
right.
make sure if you've done your work on the roof within the last year, or if you're buying a new home and your agent is working on that quote for you, let them know when you're expected to replace that roof, and they can give you that comparison, and you
Yeah,
might be surprised
it will
on
make a difference.
yeah,
Yeah,
on
yeah.
how big of a difference it will make. Yeah, and then now, Christy, what about, if I'm a realtor, working with a seller or buyer, or
Hmm.
if I'm a lender, right? And I have these cases come across my desk. So, as a realtor, if I show up to a home and somebody needs my help, right? And I run into this old roof issues, what are some best practice or workaround, Christy, that we can recommend to our real estate partners?
Yeah, well, because your real estate partner main concern, right, is don't blow up my deal. Don't blow up my deal. Don't surprise me at the 11th hour and make me miss this sale. So I think again, just to the be on the lookout for it, and realtors probably see enough that they can start to get a good idea of, hey, is this roof, still in a good viable age range where it's not going to impact the sale. But if not, then yeah, just be, make sure that you're asking on behalf of your buyer. If you're the buyer's agent or if you're the seller's agent, know what you're going into. Again, let's just have a good conversation. What is the age of this roof? Does it
Yeah.
have any damage that hasn't been taken care of?
Right.
Did you have storm damage and just decide to say, well, you know what, it's not leaking right now, so I'm going to let it go for now. Some people do that,
Yeah.
but it's not a great idea.
Yeah. We don't recommend that.
It's compromising, the validity of the roof, the viability
Right.
of it. So,
Mhm.
but I think you just want to know if that's what's going on, so
Yeah,
that you can
absolutely.
inform your buyer or
Mhm.
you know consult with that seller. Here's what we should do as far as asking price to take that into account.
Exactly. And another way that, if you're a realtor, your insurance partners can help you, right?
Absolutely.
So just to be another resource where your insurance agent can make you look good as a lender or as a realtor, if you have a trusted insurance agent that are familiar with working on the older homes or homes with roof issues, right? Because not every agency is the same. So
Right.
we might be able to, have um, connections where we can help you place hard to place risks,
Sure. Sure.
right? If the roof is old,
Yep.
or if there's any other issues, let's say with debt to income ratio, your agent is your best partner for that because they know the insurance side of things that they can help work it in to make sure that there is no last minute surprises that is going to kill your deal at the end, right?
Right. Right.
So our one recommendation. If you don't have a couple agents in your back pocket, you can always either reach out to Christy or myself. We're going to drop
For
our
sure.
contact information in the link down below. Not a problem at all, but we do highly recommend that you have that prepared, just so your sale can go a lot smoother for you and for your buyer or seller.
Yep. You got it. You got it.
Yeah.
And for that lender population as well, I think they want to make sure that they're taking on a good healthy risk, right?
Yeah.
So they
Hmm.
don't want to see something with a bad roof unless we've got the proper amount of coverage there, right? And then a policy that the buyer can afford. So that underwriter for the lender is going to make sure of all of that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, don't want to find it out at the 11th hour again, but they just want to make sure that there's a good insurance, partnership there that is given some good policy advice to the homeowner or the home potential buyer.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, we don't want that deal to go south.
No, no, I do not want to be the cause of that.
No, ma'am. And we certainly will work with you, and we'll do what we can to make sure that you're taken care of, your client's taken care of. And now, Christy, what if I'm a homeowner? I'm already in the home, right?
Yeah,
And now I got the roof I got to worry about. So, what are some things I should look out for as a homeowner if I don't
yeah.
want these issues?
This is the biggest group of people that we're talking about, right? I mean, these are the people that you and
Absolutely.
I talk to all day, every day.
Mhm.
Um, So, I think it's, just good maintenance, taking care of the home. When you have a big storm, take a look around. Don't necessarily have to get up there on the roof because I don't want to do that. And I don't want to recommend it to anybody. But you can look around the yard, make sure you didn't have any shingles that came off. Do you have um, any of that, like I said, lifting or curling? Are you seeing tons of the granules in your downspouts from your gutters? Um, the other things that you can look for are trees overhanging the roof. I know I hear this one a lot in the event when we do have inspections. If there are trees that are laying on that roof or even touching it, even just overhanging it, creating a lot of shade and damp condition, that can really impact the viability of the roof. So make sure you're trimming those trees back.
Mhm.
It's hard work being a homeowner sometimes, there are
It
things that you've
is.
just gotta take care of, just like you do the
Mhm.
inside of your home.
Mhm.
You gotta be sure that you're doing, your due diligence and giving all the outside a good look around and maintenance as well.
I think also, no, you brought up several good points I want to point out and dig a little bit deeper. Like one of them was maintaining regular maintenance. And
Yeah,
like you said, Christine, if there are trees overhanging and there's debris on your roof,
yeah,
like at least get that cleaned up like once a year. Same goes with your gutter as well.
that's
And
right.
there are plenty of professionals that are willing to do that. If you're like me and Christy, we're 5 foot nothing and we're not going to try to get on the roof. So, we call these guys to help us out, right, Christy? And
Yeah,
no hassle at all. You're supporting small businesses. It's going to help you save a lot of time, and if you worry about height, you don't have to get up on that, but it's going to help prolong the health of your roof, guys, because like
yeah,
Christy said, you don't want that moist and damp condition, anything that can cause moisture to collect on your roof and cause rotting over time, wear and tear over time.
mhm,
Our roof is supposed to last us a good 20, 30, 40 years sometimes, but it will only hold up if we take regular care of it,
yeah.
right? And
And
then
and Tanya, that's another good point that you made me think about, 20 to 40 years is a big range, right? So
mhm,
what's the difference? It's really going to be the quality of the materials that you put on the roof. Now, everybody's got a budget that, that they have to stick to. So you might not be able to afford the 40-year roof, but just know that, there's a balance there to be played. You might have to pay more for it in the beginning to get a higher quality of materials, but that will last you longer. So you're either going to get that back in life of the roof if you're going to stay in that home, or in your asking price, even if you're planning on leaving within a few years. You're gonna
absolutely.
recognize that investment by
Mhm.
spending a little bit more if you can on a better quality.
Exactly. And also, while we're on the maintenance topic, right? Because what if I want to stay in that property for the rest of my
The rest
life,
of my
right? I
life.
want to
That's
keep
me.
that. Right. So, when Christy mentioned that, storms come through, especially in our tri-state area, right? Like there's not one year that we go through without a windstorm, right? So whenever that happens, guys, being a homeowner is like maintaining your home, right? That's the responsibility that we have. So after a storm, and like, if you listen to Christy advice and you saw the shingles flying off your roof and there's a bunch of, granular runoffs, if you see that after a big storm, we do highly recommend you contact your local roof expert. Have them take a look at your roof, guys, because
Yeah.
not, we, especially if you're not going to get up there, you don't see if there was damage to your roof that can cause a slow leak over time.
Hmm.
And if you listen to us enough, you will know that homeowners insurance does not cover home maintenance issues that happen because of wear and tear or
Right.
prolonged damage. So that can cause a lot more issues for you down the road. As a homeowner living there, you don't want to deal with roof issues during the middle of a storm, or you don't want your home insurance to be denied, right? Or claim to be denied if that were to happen, right? Because
Right.
we didn't see an issue right away and that become a maintenance problem over time.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I had, I will never forget when I was thinking about and preparing to buy my first house. My grandfather said, "Oh, honey, I just feel like, a home, there's just always something to be concerned about, to take care of. I'd feel better if you had a man. Now I was still single at this point, right? So, thanks, Poppy. Instead
Oh,
of being
yes.
proud of me that I'm gonna buy a home on my own, you just wish I had a man who could take care of the problems for me, but
Oh,
that
that's
was
very
his
sweet.
generation's view on things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But it's true,
It
the
is
the
true.
sentiment may have been a little off-putting, but he was not
Yeah.
wrong that there is always something to take care of as a homeowner,
No,
and so
I
you're better off just facing it head on and doing it.
absolutely, and I understand, grandpa might be from a different generation, but I think that is a golden advice, Christy. I think it's not just the fact that, it's your girl, right? So grandpa's worried about his little
If
girl.
I'd have been a
So,
boy, he probably wouldn't have been worried
oh,
about it.
exactly. He's like, well, pick up a hammer and fix that. So, but I think that's golden advice that goes to any homeowners, right? So,
Yeah,
that's the price tag that comes with the pride of being a homeowner is the cost of maintenance that come with
cost
the
of maintenance,
home.
yeah.
And
I
and
just
you,
thought of something too. So you said pick up a hammer,
hmm
but I have had roofers tell me, "Don't let
hmm
anybody put a nail in your roof."
hmm
Don't put a nail in your roof for any reason, not to tarp it or to, put a satellite dish up there or whatever it is. Don't
hmm
put a nail on your roof. You're compromising the integrity of the materials at that point. It's a little bitty hole, I know, but you are putting a hole in the materials. And so over time, water can get in there and cause that prolonged damage, like you were talking about earlier.
Yes, yes, absolutely, guys. We want to make sure that not only the loss that you have, right, the damage to your roof is contained, but also we don't want to cause other issues for you over time. So,
Yeah.
and again, unless you are a roofer yourself with a lot of roofing experience, and we don't recommend getting up there and taking care of it yourself. We do recommend getting an expert out there. And typically, right, Christy, let's say after a storm, the roofers might be busy, but a lot of roofing company will be willing to send somebody out to your home and help you put a tarp over it.
Mhm,
And then,
mhm.
they'll either bill you then or they'll bill you later.
Right.
But all these roofing companies are very familiar with that process, right? On
Absolutely.
how to remediate that claim or that loss to make sure it doesn't get worse, right,
Yeah.
Christy?
Yeah. And you said something else that made me think of something too.
Hmm.
After a big storm, what will happen a lot around here, it seems, is you'll get these kind of roofing companies coming in maybe from out of town and just knocking on doors. Hey, looks like you have some roof damage. Let me file a claim for you. Guys, don't ever let the roofing company file your claim for you. Let them give you an estimate, and then you call your agent and talk about that estimate. And is this, does it sound like it's sudden and accidental damage that, is claimable?
Yeah.
Or does it sound like it's wear and tear that, should probably just take care of on your own? And
Mhm.
does the cost of the repair exceed my deductible? There are lots of things to consider. So I think you should a, never go with that company that just knocks on your door and says it looks like you have damage. Uh, you know, you may check them out and decide that, hey, yes, this is a good reputable company with a good local presence and a long-standing local presence, and I trust them. That's fine. But if you can't answer affirmatively to those three things, get another opinion. Get a second opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. But then B, always talk to your agent before you file a claim and talk about those things. Is it something that's likely to be covered? And is the cost going to exceed my deductible? Is it worth filing a claim over? Because there can be impacts to filing a claim when it's going to end up being a zero pay, and people don't
Exactly.
people don't recognize this, right? But
Yeah.
everything from potentially losing any claim free deductible or claim free discount that you might have at that point to trouble getting a claim, I mean, excuse me, not a claim, but a quote for a new policy if you decide to shop at some point and change
Mm-hmm.
companies. That claim history is going to follow you even if it's a zero payout. You think it wasn't a claim because they didn't pay
Right.
you anything,
Mhm.
but it's a claim, and it's going to show up, when that new company that you're looking to is quoting you, and it can impact the price. So always
Absolutely.
talk to your agent.
Absolutely. And, similar to car insurance, Christy, on homeowners insurance, if there is a payout, whether it's $1 or it's $100,000,
Right.
guys, a homeowner's claim or a property claim, I should say, a property claim is a property claim.
Mhm.
If you happen to open that claim because you didn't have an agent or that roofer was able to sweet talk you into calling in and just opening up that claim, guys, if you do decide to, one, take care of the cost yourself, right? Or two, you know what? It turns out it was just a fluke. There was no damage to it. That claim that you open is going to stay on your claim record, guys, and it could cause issues for you in the future, like Christy said, but if you have a personal agent, that is your most valuable resource that you can reach out to and discuss your options. Your agent should be able to, you know, uh, talk you through all of your different ways of how you can handle a roof
Right.
issue. And that way you can make the decision that is going to be best for you. Okay,
Right.
I'll give you a really quick example. It's similar to what Christy was alluding to. On a daily basis, we help customers that are looking for insurance for their home or their rental property. And a lot of time we do have unfortunate situation where it was very hard to find coverage
Mhm.
because they would have two $0 payout claim and one claim for $150 and then one claim for $3,000 and
Right. Yeah.
and after four or five claims their current insurance company no longer want to offer them coverage.
Yeah.
But by that time, guys, if you are in that situation, um, just be prepared for that. You're going to have to talk to quite a few people because at that time it's going to be a little bit tougher to find homeowners insurance if you're going to have that many claims activities in the last
Yeah.
3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so just be very aware of that. That's when you want to talk to your agent about the different options you have before
Right.
you file that claim. And now, Christy, talk to me a little bit more about, like you said, getting a second or third opinion, especially if you discover the problem by somebody coming and knocking on your door and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
Christy, how would you like a new roof?" Right?
Yeah.
Um, can we talk about that process a little bit more, getting the two, three different quotes? What are
Sure.
something we
Yeah.
should be looking for as a homeowner if I want to know that the person I'm talking to is being honest with me, right? As
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
looking out for my best interest and not just
Mhm.
the job. How big is the job and can I get this done?
Yeah.
So what are something our homeowners should be looking for when they're shopping for a roof replacement or repair
I
quote?
think the main thing, Tanya, is just transparency, right? Are they providing you with a detailed line item type of estimate of the work that needs to be done and the cost for materials versus labor? Um, do they have good reviews? Do they have a website or even a Facebook page? So much research these days is done on social media. So, do they have good reviews in one of those spots from real people? you know, Not just bots that, I can go out there and
Yeah.
put, 500 good 5-star reviews on my Facebook page, but that doesn't make it real. So,
Mhm.
do a little bit of research, a little bit of reading, and make sure that it looks like real people who were providing these reviews. It's more than just the 5 stars. There are some comments that, sound like a real person made them, a
Yeah.
real local person made them.
Yeah.
Um, and at no cost.
Mhm.
Most roofers that I have worked with will do an estimate for no cost. If they're wanting to charge you for an estimate, that might be a red flag to me, I would think.
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
know, would you agree?
I think so. And then also, any professional that comes out to your home for a damage inspection and, make recommendation to you, should be very transparent, right,
Mhm.
Christy, with what they're going to do with your roof. Is it repairable?
Right.
A lot of times, you know, um, contractor will just want the bigger payday. So replacing something is probably, more lucrative and easier to do than repairing something, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, are they sending you the detailed estimate, or do they ask you for your insurance, company name and phone number so they can file
Hmm.
a claim on your behalf? If they take photos of the damages, did they send that to you in an
Share those
attachment?
with you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and show
Yes.
you what's damaged and what could be, hail damage and things like that. Um, I think that's just a due diligence as homeowners. I mean, if we are going to put a new roof on our home, that's a big investment, right? We're
It
going to
is a big
go through
investment.
this change and this, pain of replacing and working with contractor, having somebody, on you at your house for several days is not a fun process to go through. So if we're gonna,
Right. Right.
spend the money, whether you pay for it out of your own pocket or go through insurance to make sure you don't have these issues in the future, you want to know what they're putting on your home, what they're charging
Absolutely.
you for, and inspect, the proposal that they send over, make sure there are line items in there that are supposed to be in there, not, also this extra and that extra.
Right,
Um,
yeah.
yep.
Believe
And
it or
then,
not, I have had that happen,
oh, it
on
happens
an auto claim actually, but yeah,
so
line
much.
items that the car owner was like, I never had that." So,
Absolutely. And I do also recommend, Christy, and please let me know if you disagree with this, but when you call your local roofing company after a big storm, just say, "Hey, can you send someone out to make sure I don't have damage on my roof, right? And if
yeah,
there is damage, can you get me a quote for the repair?" And kind of see what they say,
sure, yeah,
see how they respond to you, how honest they are with you with their recommendation. If you right off the bat, you get on the phone and you tell them, Christy, I want a quote. I'm about to put in a claim on my homeowner's policy. That's probably not going to be the quote that you want to look at, right?
ask them for the cash price,
Yes,
not the claim price,
absolutely.
ask them for the cash price.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
very
you want to
often there
have
might be a difference. Yeah,
Absolutely. And you want to have a fair assessment, right, Christy?
mhm,
Because again, when we talk about the deductible and evaluating whether or not it's worth it to go through insurance for this claim, we want to know the true cost to to insure your home, right? Or to, I'm sorry, the true cost to repair the
right,
roof, not the inflated cost. Because what if you decide that, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do this myself, so I don't want to use my insurance and have
right,
that goes up. Guys, especially, if it's something that is repairable and is not gonna mess with the integrity of your roof, right? So make sure you talk to, these roofers and consult for different opinions, because everybody might have a different way of how they can handle this. But at the
yeah,
least, at the end of the day, if they all agree on the same things, guys, at least you know that you're getting a true an honest assessment
yeah,
before you
yeah,
decide it and sign a contract with anybody.
yeah. And one other thing that it makes me think of, Tanya, unfortunately, I guess for some people, they don't have an agent like you or I. They've got a carrier that has a call center, and they're going to have to speak to somebody different every time they call and such. For those people, I recommend, frankly, that they call an agent. But, call an agent. See if you can get someone who can truly consult with you about, what's my best step in this situation.
Absolutely,
Don't
guys.
necessarily, you might, hopefully you get somebody even at that 800 number that could kind of talk you through that. But if you don't, I don't know many agents around who would say, you know what, I'm sorry, I'm not going to help you. I'm always willing to have a conversation with somebody if they've got a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, absolutely. Most agents will be able to help guide you a little bit on where you need to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, Definitely roofing issue is not going to go away as a homeowner. So
Mhm.
um understanding how your claim will work, guys, and how it affects your policy. The other thing we do want to advise, even if you have to call that call center, but every renewal, the insurance company is obligated to send you the paperwork. So
Right.
pull up your policy, read through it. If there's something you don't understand, your insurance agent should be able to explain that to you. And at the end of the day, it's not about, buying insurance for everything you can have, but, as a homeowner, you want to understand what is covered under my homeowner's policy,
Yep.
and what is not covered under my homeowner's policy, right? So if
Yep.
something were to happen, I can plan for it. I know that this is coming, right?
Right, right. And you can always, be prepared to make a good informed decision about what you're going to claim versus maybe what you're not. A lot of people like to think, well, my insurance is there to be used. I pay for it, so I'm going to use it. And to a degree, of course, that is true,
Hmm.
but to the degree that you can maybe take on some of those smaller repairs on your own, something that's maybe it's even above your deductible, but not a whole lot. It's probably worth it in the long run to just cover that cost yourself versus claiming everything that might come down the pipe, because you're going to pay for that in the long run with rate increases and possible surcharges on your policy, higher costs if you do try to shop and those sort of things.
Right, right. Yep. And one thing with the other thing with homeowners too, when it comes down to a claims too, guys, you are the homeowner, so you get to pick like what contractor you work with.
Yeah,
So please don't feel like you're obligated to work with that one person, right, Christy? If you didn't like how they interact with you or how they handle, your inquiry, for example, maybe they weren't as thorough, maybe where they were just a little difficult to talk to, so
sure.
just know that, the work that they do, you want to make sure it's good work, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of time to inquire about the warranty that they might have on their work, just to give you that
Absolutely.
peace of
Yeah, that's a
mind.
great, great advice.
Because it
Yeah,
could be like a faulty installation, because they have, maybe they don't do it on purpose, but the roofers made a mistake. We're all
sure.
humans. We all make mistake every now and then, but if that give you that extra peace of mind that can help you decide who to go with, that could be, another thing to consider and to inquire about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and now of course, if you have a new roof put on your home, guys, like I said, you probably don't think about your insurance agent first, but it's who you're in, like, so that's who you gotta call, okay? Your insurance agent. I know it's very intuitive to call your agent when you do something nice about your home, but you know what, guys, your insurance policy is not gonna change as your life change. So when you spend the money to put on a new roof, you want to make sure that is reflected on your policy. And the only way that your agent will know is if you let them
Yeah,
know, or make sure you take them up when they offer you that policy review, okay? Because your policy
it's a
isn't
great
going to
point.
change unless you let
Not
your
magically.
agent know. Yes.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Oh, I did leave out one thing. I did leave out a big, big old thing. And this goes even for home buyers too, is there is a coverage on your policy, guys, that is called building code.
Oh,
So
great.
we didn't
Yeah,
touch on this when we talk about, know your coverage, but building code is an optional coverage that you can add on your policy. Not every insurance company have that comes with it, okay?
right.
Some policies do, some policy don't, but that's why you want to check with your agent. But if your home was to be damaged from a loss, okay, let's say the wind blew and a tree fell on your home and create a hole in your roof. Anytime that we have to repair or replace or rebuild anything in your home, we have to bring that up to code. And the codes by the city or by the county are changing by the minute, okay, guys? And it can all add up really quickly. So be aware that that cost is not standard on your homeowner's policy.
Yeah.
It's going to be charged differently. And so you want to make sure you have some sort of coverage for building code on your homeowner's policy, or
Unless
your
you're
landlord
buying a brand new
policy.
build,
Yep.
right? Around here, that's happening a lot these days.
Mhm.
But there are still people buying, existing homes,
Mhm.
and I think that's a great point. To at least consider it, and like we've said, know what you have. Know that if you don't include it, and depending on maybe on the age of the home, it can be very inexpensive to include
Sure.
at least some minimal level of
Mhm.
building codes coverage. So if you don't have it though, know that there might be that additional incurred expense at the point of any repair.
Exactly, Christy. I think at least you gotta know, right?
Yeah.
And I think, yes, a good way to look at it is to see how recently your home was built. The only reason why I bring this up, even if for folks that are in like in newer construction home as well, to consider this is because I have a case, Christy. This is a customer that purchased a homeowner's policy online, and we
Mm.
have not had a chance to do a policy review before a claim happened. So, unfortunately, for this customer, at the time of the claim, the windstorm just ripped through his roof and really damaged his roof that was only 8 years old.
Ugh.
It was less than 10 years old, and the storm just really completely destroyed the roof. The claim was 100% cover. Allstate said, or I'm sorry, the carrier said, let's go ahead and take care of it. And the cost for the repair for the roof was paid out, but then our customer received a bill for a building code. And even
Mhm.
though the roof was only 8 years old, the building code invoice was $8,000. And
Wow.
so, as just an unfortunate situation that,
Hmm.
it's kind of blindsided him a little bit. It didn't break him because fortunately he has enough in the rainy day funds to take care of that. But, it's still a very unfortunate situation when it's just
Yeah.
like a surprise like that.
Yeah.
So
A lot of
make
people
sure
would
you know
not
what you
have
have.
that much, in a rainy day fund, like you
Yeah.
said. So
Yeah.
that would be tough.
Yeah, yeah. So we don't want you to, get caught surprised like that. Especially
For
you're
sure.
already going through a claim. You just went through a lot. There was a lot being done to
It's
your
a tough
home.
time. If you have a big loss and a lot of repairs done to your home, I had some folks a couple of years ago who had a gigantic tree fall on their home. It moved the home almost off its foundation. So they had, I mean, they were out of their house for 6 months. There was so much work to be done. It was a really big tree. And that's tough. It's tough on people emotionally and even, just physically with living someplace that's not your home and all of surrounded by all of your things and all the comforts that make life easy every day. So the fewer surprises you can have at a time like that, the better off you're going to be.
Yep, absolutely. So check with your agent, get a policy review, ask these questions. So, Christy, we share a lot of stuff today
Yes.
about roof, right? I know a lot of times roof doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but it is a really big deal for us in the insurance world. So, guys, whether you're buying a home, you're selling a home, you're helping client buying a home, or you're trying to just, make sure that your insurance policy is good. My biggest takeaway today, Christy, from what you share is don't ignore your roof because it's not going away anywhere. It is a big, big part of your insurance premium. So
Mhm.
be proactive so that way it can save you a lot of stress and money down the road, right, Christy?
I agree. And Tanya, I think the other thing that I'm really taking away today and that I hope folks will take away is call your agent and talk, ask these questions. I promise they don't mind having that discussion with you. And like we said, at least you know what you have, you know how to be prepared, or you can add to your policy if you find any gaps.
Yeah. So stay ahead of the problem, guys. Call your agent, call your roofer, stay ahead of it and keep the cost down for you. So with that said, Christy, thank you so much for being with us and being an awesome host again today and sharing your
Always fun
knowledge.
talking with you. I appreciate it.
And I want to thank our customer for tuning in and joining us today. So if you have questions, guys, and you don't have an agent that is lovely like Christy or I, please reach out to us. We'll have our links on the bottom, our phone numbers. Drop us a message if there's anything that concerns you and worries you about your insurance, whether it's your auto, your home, or your business. Drop that in the comment. Let us know what you want to hear, because we want to be able to help.
Yeah, I'd love to know what people would like to talk about or
Yes,
like for us to talk
absolutely.
about. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, guys. Thank you again for listening, and until next time.
Bye.
Bye.